Just kidding. It's on. We're on. We're live. No technical difficulties. The mic is working.
Coming to you live and direct.
Live and direct. Like that? I'm never going to do that again. I apologize. We are talking about crime, Tony. Crime shows, serial killers, murders, and lots of SVU and criminal minds.
So, would you say that that's your favorite type of TV show?
Absolutely.
Yes. Why?
I don't know. And I probably
what's weird
should...
to me is you really love rules and following rules.
Yes.
And probably laws.
I do all of that.
But you love watching shows about crime.
Yeah.
Is that why? Is it your way of getting it out of your...
Like I'm living violence through violent shows or something? No.
Not necessarily violence, but just, do you think there's a correlation between the fact that you like to follow rules in real life and you like to watch shows where people do not follow rules?
I've really never thought about it like that. No. I like it because I love solving mysteries. I like trying to predict... Like, I know who the murderer is, or I know what happened in this situation. I don't know why. It might be, like, the mathematical side of me.
Are you usually pretty accurate on
it? Yeah. I'm convinced that I would be, like, some sort of spy in another life.
Do you think that if you decided to commit a crime in real life, you would be able to get away with it based on the amount of crime shows that you've watched?
I've never thought about it, because I don't think about committing crimes.
Maybe that's just me, then. I don't necessarily watch crime shows as much, like
you don't watch Order and stuff. No, not even like SVU, like Special Victims Unit.
Is that what it stands for?
Really? Sorry.
No,
I'm apologizing for you. I apologize for it.
I never got into Law and Order, man. I don't know.
Wow.
When it comes to the crime things, I'm more into like the real stuff, like the documentaries about
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, or like
Gacy.
Yeah. All these people that have actually done stuff, or like...
But you know that SVU is based on a lot of...
Is it?
Yeah.
But I just feel like my crime show thing always goes towards like the documentary thing.
Why?
I don't know. I really like prison shows is one of those things where I'll put that on while I make breakfast and stuff and eat.
Oh, it's like start off your day.
Yeah, with prison documentaries. It's like a whole other life. It's like a whole other world in a prison. It's the way things operate. It's like a world within our world.
Yeah.
And I think the thought of being around people who are considered to be like the worst, because they always do that. They're like, these guys are the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. Or it'll be somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Like, I think I watch them just, one, I think it keeps me from doing anything bad. Because I'm like, not trying to end up here. And then it makes you reevaluate situations like you're in traffic, you have road rage, you know, like, it's not that serious. Or somebody says something, like a drunk dude says something to you in a bar, you're like,
I'm gonna let that one go.
Yeah, I don't need to go to jail.
Yeah, because I see that every morning when I'm eating breakfast, so I don't want to go
to keep a reminder of I don't want to go there. I think when it comes to the killer documentaries, my obsession with those is the psychology behind it. Because, like, a lot of serial killers and stuff are psychopaths. And it blows my mind to think that there's people out here that are born with the missing part of their brain, basically, that allows them to feel compassion for others.
So you're intrigued by diving into, like, the human mind?
Yeah, I think that's what it boils down to. It's not like I'm trying to be a killer or, like them, but it's like I was watching a documentary about Jeffrey Dahmer, and this guy was just nonchalantly talking about why he chose to keep people in a freezer and like cut their head off, and he was just, the way he looked at people like objects was like really wild to me.
Yeah.
The other thing that's crazy is you think about how many people are out in the world just existing and what they're thinking about, and they can just look totally normal. Like Jeffrey Dahmer just looked totally normal. John Wayne Gacy used to entertain children at birthday parties and stuff, and he had dozens of bodies buried in his house, in the walls and in his crawl space, and people went to his house and thought it smelled like death. Like, they interviewed his neighbors and they were like, yeah, it smelled really bad, and he blamed it on, like, I forget what it was, pipes or something like that, and they're just like, oh, okay. And so and then I'm thinking to myself, like, this dude sleeps in his house with the smell of rotting corpses every night. Like he just goes to bed in his house with a graveyard in his basement and smells these bodies and it doesn't faze him. Like
Blah,
that's wild to me, dog.
blah.
And that's real life. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
But I think it is cool that the SVU shows are based on reality because you kind of have to because it's like the stuff that real people do. Like you couldn't even make that up.
Yeah, like I said, I love the whole mystery or solving a crime type of thing, like putting these puzzle pieces together. And they do also, delve into the psychology of the criminals as well. Especially like Criminal Minds. I learned about like profiling and just the whole psychology of criminals. I mean, it's called Criminal Minds.
Because I remember there was a girl in my high school that I was talking to like before we graduated, and we were talking about what we were gonna do after high school. And she was saying that she wanted to be a forensics person, and I was like, what do they do? And it was basically like autopsies and stuff was what she was trying to do.
Oh, wow.
We watch this stuff in shows, but I don't think I could really do that. Where you walk into rooms every day and like look at dead bodies and like crazy stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that either, to be honest.
I saw this one show. It was about a female killer. I think it was in Australia or New Zealand. It might have been New Zealand actually. She was like this belligerent, like drunk chick. She was like always at these bars and like she dated this guy and the guy had told his neighbor across the street, if you don't see my car tomorrow, like call the cops because she killed me. He didn't show up at his job and they were calling his house and they were like, this dude always shows up. The neighbor was like, yeah, his car's still outside. The cops go in the house. They had to go through a curtain to get into the door. There was like a curtain blocking the hallway. And there was blood everywhere, like all over the hallway, all over the place. They found her passed out on the bed. She had taken a bunch of pills. She was trying to OD, but she was still alive. There was 2 plates of food made with his family members' names on them. And then a pot. And then there was a skinned body on the floor with no head. And then it turns out the curtain that they walked through when they came in was this dude's pelt, basically draped across the hallway. So she skinned him and draped his skin across the hallway. And then inside the pot was his head. And the plates of food had steaks on it that were made of that guy's butt. And labeled for his family, his like brother-in-law or his sister or something like that. That kind of thing is mind-blowing to me. Like you really went out of your way to do all this. Like I couldn't even dissect a worm in high school. She hung up his skin like a curtain. But anyways, my point was the cops go into situations like that
all the time.
And I'm like, when you see stuff like that on a regular basis all the time, how do you go to sleep? I can't imagine just looking at that stuff objectively for like 30 years. Like, what is in your brain, fam?
Yeah.
But do you think, because you said you like solving the crimes, would you be able to like walk into the crimes, or would you be like, I'm trying to stay at the desk?
No, I would want to be part of the action for sure. So I'm not going to be a desk person.
You'd be willing to go into like murder scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
Would you be able to do autopsies where you're like
no.
on the table?
I'll visit the person and then talk to them about it, about what they found out. That's fine, but I can't do I'm good on that.
Do you have a favorite like crime or killer?
This is a weird question. I mean, crime could be anything, or does it have to be murder?
It can be anything.
I love like bank heists. I don't know what's a true one. I can't think of a true one. I'm thinking of all like bank heist movies right now, but I want to set it off. I like crime that is
harmless. You like rated G crime.
I like harmless crimes where it's a community effort.
You're all about the teamwork.
All about it.
Ocean's 11.
Yes, all of that. Square. What do you like? The curtain, skin curtain?
Well, that one was what was intriguing about that one to me was because in a lot of serial murder cases, there's not very many women. And I also noticed that women tend to be the victims in like serial killer cases. If it is males, they're usually like teenage boys or something like that.
Sure.
The main reason I was asking that question was because I've noticed like with streaming services like Netflix or Hulu, YouTube, like crime killer things became a genre that was like really popular, where like Netflix and chill was like you're on a date chilling watching like
I'm so
Psychos.
into that.
And so it's gotten to a point where people could like have a favorite killer. or have a favorite, like, and I'm just like, is that healthy? That such a terrible thing has become entertainment, you know?
Oh, I mean that's loaded because that can detail all the way to a lot of the things that we consume.
Like,
Video games. We just watched the new Mortal Kombat, which is dope. But wow,
brutal.
extremely brutal.
But see, here's the thing with me. Like, I love Tarantino movies. Like, I'll watch super hyper violent movies. I've watched them since I was like really young. I grew up on like Terminator and stuff like that. And it never really bothered me that much. Violence never bothered me as a kid, but like scary stuff did. I don't know why. Like, I could watch an action movie where everybody was getting shot up and didn't think nothing of it, but I couldn't watch like Candyman. That's another story. But I feel like the violence when I know it's not real doesn't bother me. But like in real life, I hate like killing bugs. And it's not because I'm like grossed out by it. I just hate that I have to kill something.
Yeah.
So I really don't think I would have it in me to like kill somebody. But I'll watch it or like watch a documentary about somebody else who did it. And I think it's still the same thing where you're like, I can't even kill a roach. How do you murder like 30 people, you know, one after another too? Like, it's one thing to like go in a room with a machine gun and light up the room, but these dudes who just like
who have a
stalk
pattern,
somebody and
they kill people the same exact
bury
way.
a body or chop it up, get rid of it, do all this crazy stuff,
right?
And it's like, how do you sleep at night? And they're always like, it's an addiction. I'm like, how, bro? That's so crazy to me. It's
well,
like,
you're not a killer, Tony. So
clearly
we'll never know. That's one of those things where you can't really empathize, I feel like. Because you can't, because it's not like you can put yourself in their shoes. You can study their psychology all day, but it still won't make sense to you because it shouldn't. Being a serial killer shouldn't make sense to us. So to answer your question, do I feel like it's healthy for us to be exposed to certain things in a way that makes it more entertainment? We've been doing this our whole lives, I feel. It hasn't made you a serial killer. Hasn't made me a serial killer or a murderer.
Not even in that case, because that's one thing to say, like, it doesn't make the next person one, but does it make you less empathetic towards the plight of somebody else who's like dealing with that? Like when you see on TV somebody got killed.
You mean being numb to the violence?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we're both from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Does hearing about anybody being shot even make you blink anymore? As sad as that is?
Not really.
Exactly. You hear about a kid getting shot on the south side of Chicago, we're so desensitized to it. So I think it has affected us for sure. It's sad. It's just regular. And it shouldn't be. You're right. I agree with you. It shouldn't be. We shouldn't be used to it.
It's part of the human condition in a way. Like, we watched an episode of The Handmaid's Tale, and they were trying to make all the handmaids like stone that one girl.
Oh, yeah,
and they decided not to.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because you're like, this is so barbaric. And like, they all refuse to do it now. But like, back in the day, people used to get stoned to death all the time. And then like, or when there was public hangings, like people would come watch somebody get murdered in front of them. Like, it was a big party.
It's been since the beginning.
As a spectacle is what's wild.
Gladiators.
Right. Like, it's a thing that we enjoy watching.
We love violence.
So we're not that different.
Well, we're not murdering people.
Like the
you
fact
mean
that
like the spectating part of it.
The fact that we watch murder shows on Netflix and stuff is just the modern version of what's always been going on.
Right.
What's really crazy is the people that volunteer for that kind of stuff.
It's very true.
Like bullfighting?
We're doing it right now. We've watched UFC. Real people beating each other up. People pay lots of money to watch these fights.
I even find myself like when I'm bored on like World Star and just watching street fights sometimes.
I can't.
I think it's funny watching people get knocked out. So, like,
I know I can't.
It's funny to me.
It makes me grind my teeth. Like the sound of hands. I can watch movies. They can be super gory and that's fine. But those World Star videos, when it's real and you can hear bone hitting skull, that I can't. It makes me
that's the thing that makes me worry about myself. Like, I've never knocked anybody out before, but for some reason there's something very therapeutic to me about watching somebody else get knocked out. And I feel like It's a way to
That's
like
really
get out
good for you.
aggression. You know what?
That's awesome that you've never.
How to knock somebody out?
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
It's really
I
good.
am not a violent person. Like, I can't even kill a bug. Like, what do I look like knocking somebody out? If I had to, it was like it
No,
boiled
I'm
down
not saying
to
that
it.
you wouldn't be able to. I'm saying
But I
that's
just
very good.
because I
No.
feel like it takes you have to get to a point, like a blind rage point to really, or like a threat level thing.
Mhm.
And I've never been like threatened to that level where
Mhm.
I felt like it was a fight or flight thing.
Mhm.
I just feel like it would be really therapeutic to knock somebody out because there's some people you want to knock them out. And so instead of actually acting on it, I just like watch somebody else get knocked out.
Violence is not the answer.
Exactly. Don't be violent. Just watch other people.
Do you feel that it's a problem?
For me,
Do you feel like all this criminal crime killer content is a problem? Is that why you prompted this subject matter?
I feel like it could be a problem.
What do you think can be done though?
Well, I thought it could be a problem, but then when you say we've kind of always been doing it, then I'm like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just always going to be that way.
It could be very programish, or it could be programming somebody that, let's say, they're looking for something to follow. Because you hear about these kids who are following Slender Man or something like that, and if I was a kid and that was happening, I would never. That wouldn't even, you know. But there are some people that are more impressionable,
Mm.
and I am not, you know, because we grew up around positive influences, and our environment had positive influences that steered us away from that. It's like people blaming rap music or Marilyn Manson getting stuff for Columbine. How many people listened to Marilyn Manson and didn't do that? How many
Right.
people listened
And
to
Marilyn
Eminem
Manson never
and
said anything
didn't?
about shooting up a school anyways.
But I'm saying it's so objective because, yeah, the influences are there. We've been around bad influences our entire lives. We still are. You're not going to program me to kill somebody.
Yeah.
But it could lead to somebody doing that. You've heard the stories of people, well, they'll find all these violent video games. They were playing all these violent video games.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll play Mortal Kombat all day. I'm not going to Sub-Zero somebody.
Sometimes I want like my car to be like a vigilante 8 car and just when I'm in traffic or somebody's driving dumb in front of me and I can't get around them. I do want missiles on my car.
I mean, I don't go that far. I'm just like, I wish this was Mario Kart and I had a red turtle. Just
You really are like rated G. You make me feel like a psycho. Like, thanks.
I'm not trying to make you feel like a psycho. You just
Are a
have-
psycho.
no, you just, mature rating, G rating.
Oh.
So this changed your hypothesis, this conversation going into it?
It was interesting for me because I know that you like crime shows a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that you liked them because you liked the bad guy side of it, but you like the good guy side of it, which is good. I like the bad guy side of it. I wouldn't say I like it, but I'm like intrigued by the bad guy side of it.
Going off of that was something that I used to explore a lot in film school with the people that I worked with. We were always doing violent movies. One was about an ex-Marine that comes back and kills his pregnant ex-girlfriend. We have another one where this person with HIV goes and knowingly gives this girl HIV. And then another one was taking the viewpoint and perspective of the actual school shooter / bomber. I didn't write it or direct it. I was the producer and the production designer, and it was really hard, I feel, to be the production designer because I had to get inside this psycho's head and I had to come up with all these very disgusting visuals. I mean, it looked like a dungeon. We had like weird animal drawings and sliced up animals and weird body part images with knives and blood. And I see what you're saying about taking it from the mind of a bad guy. I've done that before. I've had to do that before and I don't like it.
And that's why I think I like the documentary part because when I was younger, I used to write stories, and it was hard for me to think from the bad guy side too. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you haven't like really been in that mindset or you haven't done it, you go too far. You think of stuff that's way too weird
Mm-hmm.
and in an effort to try to be, but at the end of the day, like people that do this stuff in real life have motives. And so if you ask them, there's some type of rhyme or reason. They're not just doing it to be the grossest. You know what I'm saying? They're doing it because there's something else to it.
Mm-hmm.
But you think of like movies like The Human Centipede, like that's just somebody trying to be as gross as they can be. Like nobody's done that in real life. Like who would do that? Who has time? Who would even like, you know what I'm saying? Nobody's gonna actually do that.
I mean, I
So,
hope not. Like, I definitely don't want.
and if somebody does do it now, it's because they got it from that movie.
That's true.
And I think a lot of horror movies, that's probably why they're funny to me because they're so ridiculous a lot of the time that you're
Mm-hmm.
like, nobody would really do that. That's why I want to go into it from the bad guy side, is to like figure out why that person is doing that.
So figuring out motives, pretty much.
Yeah, like figuring out the psychology behind why they are this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, like Heath Ledger's Joker in Batman was like doing all this crazy sick stuff, but his motive was like you kind of related to him, you know, where he was just like, none of this matters, like none of this is real, like,
Right.
and all you guys are chasing money, and he lit that money on fire. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why he was such a crowd favorite. It was because he was a bad guy. He was doing bad things, but like the mentality behind it, everybody can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's intriguing to me a lot of the time about villains in those types of scenarios. Like good bad guys, they're usually just a realist or a nihilist who just takes it a step too far. Somebody who represents like hope and what it should be or what it could be has to stop them, like all the time.
But so, do you not believe in pure evil?
I don't think any human beings are pure evil because at some point every human is a child and a child is a blank slate. So if
So you don't believe that there's just evil children?
I think you can be a psychopathic child or like a sociopathic child.
Do you know anything about Ted Bundy?
And Ted Bundy, I think, was like a narcissist.
Yeah, he was a narcissist that says was motivated by rejection.
There's always like,
But that doesn't make me like, oh.
and I'm not ever saying any of them should be sympathized with.
Yeah.
But you were saying, do I think there's just pure evil? I don't, because I think all these people are a product of something, and it might not even be that they were raised bad or like they didn't have enough attention, but there was just some other thing that was just interpreted wrong, or the way their brain processed stuff was just not right, and the way they were dealt with was wrong because they were sick. But I don't think there's people out here that are just born evil. Like, I don't really think that.
I know. I saw this one documentary about about these evil children, and they just like are very scary. So I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough to give input right now, but I feel like there are certain criminals or serial killers that I've seen where to me you're just really fucked up.
But do you think that they were like that since day one?
I mean, I don't know. But then seeing some of these kids that are trying to stab their parents at like 6, they're biting their parents' necks and trying to get a knife and stab them. That I can't. How do you explain that? The parents are trying to like.
I guess you could say it was like you could write it off as evil, or you could write it off as like a mental disorder, which there's no really. Who knows what the real answer to that is? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that goes back to trying to explain things with spirituality or science, where it's like the brain's so complex and we know so little about it that like we could write things off as like a mental disorder maybe.
Yeah.
Or this person could be possessed. You know what I'm saying? It depends on how you take it. Who knows? And that's.
What do you guys think? You guys think that there's pure evil out there? Or do you think there's motive for everything? What's your favorite crime story? Well, who's your favorite criminal? Do you have a favorite criminal? Do you watch SVU? And if you don't, shame on you.
Yeah, let us know. Like and subscribe to the page. We're on Facebook and YouTube.
We have an Instagram.
Yeah.
But our full show's not on Instagram.
No, that's just where we put funny clips of stuff Angel says.
And Tony's funny too.
We'll come back with another one sometime soon. Deuces.
Thumbnail.